Entertainah, talking sports.
What is going on, football fans? Back at it with another New York Giants video. Before I get started, just want to let everybody know I will be live tonight. Haven't done a New York Giants Q&A with you guys in a bit. Always love talking to you guys, talking New York Giants football. So I'm going to do that tonight instead of, calling the Thursday night game, which is horrible. I'd much rather talk Giants football with you guys. Hopefully some of you guys come by. We'll talk about the trade deadline. We'll talk about some of the rumors with the New York Giants. I should be live around 8:30, 8:45, the normal time. And yeah, hopefully I see some of you guys there for that. And of course, we could also talk about the major stories that came out, the major story that came out today. Also touch on Coleman, being that a lot of you guys have asked me to talk about him and the effect that he may have on the New York Giants roster. The Giants, of course, brought him back, and he's a big fan favorite. He was signed to the practice squad. But we're going to start with the big story of the day. And of course, unfortunately, one of the New York Giants has tested positive for the virus, and that being Will Hernandez. And going into the year, we all viewed this as a probability, probably that some of the New York Giants players would get this. And I'm actually a little bit surprised it took this long. And now we know the story that came out about a week ago or 4 or 5 days ago at this point, where the Giants were out at the bar and a lot of people that felt like they could have conducted the virus there and it wouldn't look good on the football team. Well, there's no way of knowing about whether or not that is where it happened. Supposedly, it seems like the New York Giants have said that the offensive linemen were really the only ones that could have potentially been affected. And Hernandez, of course, if this is accurate and there's no false positive, will be missing this week's contest and it'll open up an opportunity. Now, the Giants only had 4 offensive linemen at practice from what I read today. They quarantined the rest of them and anybody that may have had contact with Will Hernandez as they're trying to play it safe, which is the smart thing to do, obviously. The offensive linemen that did not practice today, I'm not 100% sure. They also quarantined 2 coaches that they said may have had contact with Hernandez, that being Brett Bielema, who I think is the D-line coach or linebackers coach, I can't remember, and Henderson, the DB's coach. So both of them are out, and I think those are more the guys you worry about more. Older people, obviously, or who are affected more by this virus. Of course, we all hope and pray that Will Hernandez gets back as quickly as possible, and I'm pretty confident that he will. I mean, he's an athlete. Yes, he weighs a bit, and maybe you worry about that a little bit, but I think he'll be fine. He's an athlete that's in very good shape, and hopefully we get him back on the football field as quickly as possible. But Will Hernandez is out. That's going to open up an opportunity at that guard spot for the New York Giants for somebody to step in and get the job done. Will Hernandez, of course, had high expectations coming into the league. The former second-round pick, early second-round pick, had a pretty strong rookie campaign. Last year regressed, and I thought he was actually starting to play better this year as the weeks were starting to wear along, maybe week 3 and on, but he will definitely be missed. And, obviously him and Andrew Thomas are trying to get some kind of chemistry going forward. We all hope that they're both a big part of the future. One of the picks that was questioned by a lot of New York Giants fans on draft day 3, was the 5th pick when it happened. After the fact, I think a lot of New York Giants fans were on board with it. But when we selected a guard, it was a bit of a surprise. A lot of people probably thought the Giants could go with a wide receiver, maybe another area of need on this football team, but the Giants elected to go with a pick, lining them up more for the future, not so much this year. Coming into the year, the Giants had 2 strong guards, or guys that we thought were strong guards, with Kevin Zeitler and Will Hernandez. Now, of course, Zeitler is on the wrong side of 30, and he will be replaced sooner than later, possibly as soon as next year, if he's either traded now before the deadline, or if he's traded from, in between seasons, or potentially cut, being that he only carries a $2 million dead cap hit. And a lot of that is going to come down to how the New York Giants feel about Shane Lemieux and whether or not they think he could step in and get the job done right away. Shane Lemieux, of course, from Oregon, actually drew a lot of comparisons to Will Hernandez when he was drafted. And he, of course, is the teammate of Penei Sewell, supposed to be the, premier tackle coming out of next year's draft. And a lot of people have talked about the chemistry that they could potentially have if the Giants were to draft Penei Sewell. And we'll have to wait and see how that plays out. We're nowhere near the draft right now. As far as Lemieux goes, I'm excited if he does get an opportunity, and I think he will, with Hernandez being out. And if he plays, I'd actually like to see Matt Parrott get the start as well, and we'd get to see all 3 rookies in the lineup at the same time. Now, do I expect the New York Giants to have rocky results? Absolutely. You're going up against one of the best teams in football in Tampa Bay. It would be Lemieux's first start. Not only his first start, it would be the first start of, Thomas playing next to him, or Parrott playing next to him, or Fleming, or whoever would be playing next to him, depending on how they, allocated the guys on the offensive line. and we'll have to wait and see how that all plays out. So, yeah, do I expect flawless results? Absolutely not, but I'm excited to see what Shane Lemieux has, and I think all New York Giants fans want to see Matt Baird out there as soon as possible, and we'll continue to monitor that and see what they decide to do with Cam Fleming. But that is definitely, I guess, an exciting part of this. Of course, we all hope and pray that Will Hernandez gets back as soon as possible. We all know that we're going to need him on this football team if we're going to get good anytime soon. So prayers up to him, and hopefully the New York Giants overcome this, and we're not at too big of a disadvantage going into the Tampa Bay Bucs game. Of course, the Bucs, from what I read, will be without Godwin, so maybe that evens it up a little bit, but we're nowhere near in the same stratosphere as the Tampa Bay Bucs. Right now, they may be the best team in football the way that they're playing, so will not be an easy opponent this week. The other thing I wanted to touch on briefly was a guy that you guys continue to talk about, and that being Corey Coleman. Corey Coleman, of course, the New York Giants brought in, former first-round pick. I think he was a mid-first rounder from the Cleveland Browns, and he was definitely underwhelming. I think his most receiving yards in a season is about 400 with Cleveland, and he was supposed to be a guy with a much higher upside. And when the New York Giants brought him in as a free agent in 2018, everybody liked the move. He was a guy with some upside, a guy that Cleveland seemed to give up on, and he definitely had a big impact in the New York Giants kicking game. In terms of receiving, he didn't do much. I think the guy had 80 receiving yards in a half season with the New York Giants, but he was definitely an unsung hero with that football team, constantly flipping the field position for the New York Giants. And the following year going in, he was actually favored to be the number 3 wide receiver. We didn't know what we had with Darius Slayton, and Coleman got hurt in training camp, and we never got to see him play with this football team. And who knows if he's going to be the same player. He got back healthy, worked his butt off, and he got an opportunity to try out for the New York Giants this year. And I think most of us thought he would be back with the team as the 4th wide receiver. Well, the New York Giants unexpectedly cut him just 2 days or a day before the final roster was due, and they moved on from him. And a lot of people were shocked by that, myself included, but he was coming off an injury. He was not a Joe Judge guy, and maybe the Giants felt like he was missing a step, being that he was coming off the injury. And we'll have to wait and see if he is. If he does get an opportunity to play for the New York Giants, he was signed to the practice squad, so that does not mean he'll be up with the main roster. But the question I ask myself, for anybody expecting huge results from Corey Coleman or a guy that could have any kind of impact on this team, it's the same question I asked about Javon Leake. One, why did nobody pick this guy up? People have had now 8 weeks to give Corey Coleman an opportunity. He's a former first-round pick. Nobody's done it. To me, that's a major red flag. The other thing that I ask myself is, why didn't the Giants pick him up? They were starving for wide receivers, and I'm glad that they did. I've talked about bringing in guys like Mohamed Sanu. Why not bring in a guy like Corey Coleman, a guy that has experience catching balls from Daniel Jones, at least in practice, and has played for the New York Giants before? But do I expect him to even play in this game? Probably not. I mean, he's on the practice squad right now. Right now, our wide receivers are fully equipped with Sterling Shepard back and Golden Tate and obviously Darius Slayton. Now, if he's going to play at all, and if he's going to have any kind of impact outside of injuries, which we all hope doesn't happen, I think it would be in the kick return game. Corey Ballantyne's been mediocre at best in that area, and Coleman, if he is what he was 2 years ago, has certainly proven he could give a big boost in special teams for the New York Giants in that area. But do I expect Coleman to have any kind of, resurgence as a pass catcher with the New York Giants? Not really. The guy's never done it in the NFL. Why should I expect he'd be able to do it now, being that he hasn't played in 8 weeks? He's coming off an injury the year before, and nobody in the NFL wanted to give him a shot. But I hope I'm wrong. I hope he goes out there, and I hope he has a 300-yard game for the New York Giants. We'll have to wait and see if he does get an opportunity to catch at footballs with Daniel Jones. As far as Hernandez goes, get as healthy as soon as possible. And Shane Lemieux, we may see you out there on Monday night. As always, guys, if you like what you watch, please subscribe. Drop a comment. Maybe give me a little thumbs up. Cheers.